Talk Radio 630 K-How. I thought the budget battle was over when the Republicans ate the crap sandwich handed to them, but it may be very much alive, and now the Syrian refugee situation may be in play. Joining me now, political strategist and author of Ladies, Can We Talk? America Needs Our Vote, Debbie Georgatos. Is that how you say your last name, Debbie?
That is perfect.
Thank you. Perfect. Excellent. I was practicing it all morning, and I think I massacred it a couple times. I believe, and I thought a lot of Americans thought that after the Republicans accepted the giant crap sandwich budget deal, that the budget situation was over. But now, how is it going to be revisited because of the Syrian refugee? Explain to me how this is all coming together.
I think a lot of people had that. And I think actually if the Syrian situation had not occurred, then the budget deal would have been solved and done. But it's really that the omnibus bill must be signed and be done by December 11th to avoid yet another threat of a shutdown, at least a shutdown discussion. And this issue, I think, was so of such overwhelming concern to the GOP, to the governors, to the American people, and Congress has tried a way to just talk with President Obama to say, hey, look, America's nervous about the Syrian refugees. Can we put a pause here now that your own FBI head has told us that vetting is not possible? And, the answer, as it has been quite often, is there's just no real communication or compromise between the president and the GOP majority, House and Senate. And so I think it's the GOP going back to the only thing the Constitution gives them as a way to counter the president to say we're not going to fund this. I think it's the nature of the emergency that is causing the possibility of another shutdown, a potential shutdown.
Well, what's frustrating for me, Debbie, is that regardless of the rightness of the Republicans' position on this, and I do think that all of the issues that have been raised, from the impossibleness of actually vetting Syrian refugees to this push to just blindly move forward. I mean, the president has been arrogant and petulant on this issue. It reminds me of when I'm talking to my 6-year-old and she asks me the same thing over and over again, and eventually I snap and say, I said no. That's how he's coming across. However, if this runs up against the shutdown clock, as they love to do, it will purely be presented in the media as, look at those nativist, xenophobic Republicans who hate women and children, and they're shutting down the government in order to hate women and children.
Well, you are right that the media, if they continue the march they normally do, will take that tact. I do think, though, that this is different. This issue is not a policy difference about amnesty, which is a huge issue itself, or a policy difference about Obamacare. And the basic American heart and mindset is we expect the government to protect us. Your number one job in the federal government is to protect America's national security, and people see this as a national security question. So I think the media, they will try what you described, and Mandy, you're exactly right, that's what they'll do. But I think the GOP, if they can just hold strong to say, we're funding everything except this new effort the president wants to bring more people that his own administration admits they cannot vet, I think they can win that public argument. They can win the messaging, and I think they need to start with that. We're talking about is the concern that we don't know who these people are. There's no reason to bring them here. We can help them where they are in the various countries where the refugee camps have already been established. I think it's a winnable thing. And I'll tell you, the 47 Democrats in the House that went along with Republicans, that should be a signal to President Obama that people in Congress and the Senate, they don't want to go back to their districts, to their voters, and say, I stuck with the president. I'm bringing these people here. They don't want to have to do that.
I said it when all this started coming out about Syrian refugees. I don't understand, just from the political, forget the humanitarian side, Debbie, from a political strategy mindset, okay? And you work in political strategy. You know that everything goes through how is this going to help or hurt my party or my chances in the future when you're talking about straight up politics. But the reality is if one Syrian refugee or one person comes into this country as a Syrian refugee and creates havoc and launches any kind of terror attack that takes lives, that will absolutely destroy the Democratic Party when it comes to matters of national defense for a very long time. I mean, I just politically, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there are lots of Democrats who have a big heart and really believe that this is the humanitarian thing to do. But politically, it is a loser. It is a huge risk because it doesn't matter if someone launches an attack that kills one person or two people or three people. The fact that they came in as a Syrian refugee will be hung on the Democratic Party, not even necessarily President Obama, but on the Democrats, if the Republicans are worth their salt when it comes to politicking. And we all know that they can be when they really put their mind to it. This is what I don't understand is the seeming short-sightedness of this.
I agree. And there was a poll recently. I think that's very well said, Mandy. There was a poll recently. 60% of Americans are saying, please do not bring any more Syrian refugees here, 30-plus governors. I don't think this is a 50-50 issue. I think that national security, it really should not be a partisan issue. So I think people sit at home, they sound exactly like what you're saying. Sorry, pardon me. They look at this and they're thinking, what am I missing? What is the reason to bring these people here that President Obama is not telling us? As far as I can tell, this seems dangerous. We can't vet them. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they're radicalizable. Are they people who come here and perhaps radicalize others? We simply can't know that. There's no reason to do this. And so I think that it's a killer for Hillary, especially. Hillary is in a really tough spot because she's trying to run and make sure she's courting all of Obama's supporters. She doesn't want to go against him. But I thought the Democrat debate a couple days, it was the next day after the Paris attack, the Democrat presidential debate where the three of them were up there competing for who wanted to bring more refugees here faster. I think it is, to your point, I think it's just a loser issue for the Democrats, and I'm astonished they just keep marching to President Obama's drum. It's astonishing.
Well, I mean, good for the Republicans if they continue to do this. I just got this email from Brad, and Brad said it may be the case that the Republicans believe that this time, if they did shut the government down, the people would be more inclined to blame Obama because the polls say that more people are in agreement with the Republican position on Syrian refugee vetting. That usually isn't the case. So usually the government shutdown is a very bad idea. He and I disagree on this. Brad and I, the emailer, go back and forth about this quite a bit. Do you think that the Republicans actually have the stomach to do this? I'm not a fan of Mitch McConnell. I think he has the spine of a jellyfish. And but are the Republicans in the House, are they coherent enough? And will Speaker Paul Ryan let this happen? Will they move forward with this if they believe they have public opinion on their side, or will they cave at the last minute like they normally do?
I'll say two things about that. On my radio show, Ladies Can We Talk, on this past Sunday, I had on Congressman Louis Gohmert, who was talking about exactly what you just asked. And he said that Paul Ryan and the other Republicans were so surprised by the number of Democrats who came along with them, how they really had a veto-proof majority in the House for the standalone bill. And his read of it was that they're going to be willing to fight this on the omnibus, actually take it to a funding question and not back down on the House side. So it is, you're right, the battle's going to fall back to the Senate. And there is really, I think, what the people in the Senate should be looking at, the GOP, is watching Donald Trump's numbers go up and up and up as he talks tough about Syrian refugees, and he talks tough about ISIS. He talks tough about America reasserting its leadership position in the world. And the GOP and the Senate side, you have to say, are we really going to back down again on this kind of issue? Because if they do, number one, Donald Trump will win the nomination. He may win it anyway, but he'll win it without question. If yet again, the GOP establishment becomes jellyfish spined, which is a great term. And so I think they may get bolstered up enough in the GOP and the Senate to say, you know what, this time we're going to stick with it. Because President Obama has no core of Americans behind him on this let's bring more potential terrorists in our borders initiative, which is really what it is he's doing.
Well, you know what? I never underestimate the ability of Republicans to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. So I'm going to cautiously move forward and say maybe. I don't know. I think that this is a really big issue, and I think it is a rational issue. You're right. When it comes to immigration, there's so much emotion there This is a rational issue where if the Republicans go everywhere and make the case everywhere, we have no way of vetting these refugees, which is the God's honest truth. No one can argue with that statement. We have no way of finding out if these people are who they say they are, and we can work with other countries to help people in refugee camps. I think it's a winning argument. The question is whether or not they're willing to make it.
Absolutely. And Manny, I don't know how close we are to a break that really you have to go to, but I had one other point I was to share with the listeners if we have time.
Oh, go right ahead. I have crazy long segments and only 2 breaks an hour. Magic.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. Well, there's an article out in the Daily Caller, and I'm going to post it on the Ladies Can Talk website and the Facebook page. It's essentially saying, due to changes by the Obama administration over the last 6 years in our terror training manuals, we've taken out all reference to al-Qaeda, jihad, all those things. That happened several years ago, 2011. But this article today is talking about how when we in America picture vetting, we think that in addition to saying where were you born and what's your name and whatever they would ask, your date of birth, that we are asking these people just basic questions about their orientation. For example, do you support the Muslim Brotherhood? What do you think about al-Qaeda? And watch their responses, read their responses. No questions of that nature are permitted under President Obama's policies. So we say they can't be vetted. We can spend all day trying to find fingerprints in some non-existent registry in Syria, but that doesn't do anything to get to the real question. And I think when people realize that we're not even trying to figure out what these people believe, we can only ask questions about their past behavior. It is a losing issue for Obama, for every Democrat who stands with him. And I'm in a cynical way, I kind of hope President Obama continues to push it because it really shows how out of touch the Democrat Party is with America.
Yeah, I very much agree. We're like marching to the same drummer today, Debbie, you and I think that a lot of people are out there listening to us nodding along, and it remains to be seen about whether or not 2 things will happen. I hate to say this because nothing this president does shocks me, but his attitude now, the intransigence, the sort of digging in of the heels, the obnoxious petulance, dismissing the notion of American leadership and American exceptionalism as something he doesn't have time to worry about. I think that there's a lot of people who are saying who are having their rose-colored glasses ripped off right about now, and I don't know how they're still on. I don't know how you could possibly still think this president was working for the best interest of the country on many levels. But I find it fascinating that this issue is so common sense to so many people and just so foreign, pun intended, to this president. It's like, how can you not understand how people feel? How can you not understand why they're concerned? And yet he doesn't. He just thinks we're awful.
He doesn't, and worse, the people get concerned about, because he has said in his autobiography and other times in his presidency, he's very sympathetic to the Muslim community of the world. He's sympathetic to the Nation of Islam. He's sympathetic to people. And he said, if the winds of war push, my sympathies would go with the Muslims. I think people are really worried, wow, he meant it. It's not that he hates America exactly, but he doesn't like that America has been the premier power in the world, has been kind of the world's peacekeeper through force, the standard bearer for liberty. He's never liked that. This idea that Islam is pushing back and giving the American premise in the world, just pushing it off center stage, he's more than okay with that. And I think now we see how much danger we're facing after Paris and all that. People don't want, they want someone who just says exactly the opposite of what he's saying.
Amen to that, or at least who seems to understand the danger. That's a great point, Debbie. Hey, Debbie Georgatos is a political strategist and author of Ladies Can We Talk? America Needs Our Vote. Can you hang on? I want to get a contact number for you.
Yes, thank you.
Hang on 1 second. Let me. I forgot how to work my phone because I've never done this. No, I'm just kidding. Hang on 1 second.